What is the real reason behind Nepali youth protest? Why it is so much more than just the social media ban, and who sits to gain from it, US, China or India. Nepal is as of now witnessing one of the biggest youth-led uprising it has seen in recent years. Whereas the social media ban was just the spark, this whole fire has so many more reasons associated to it, which we need to understand for the clearer context of the problems that are going in our neighborhood country. Hello everyone, welcome to Vajiram and Ravi's Flash News. My name is Shubhangi Singh and today we are going to peel the layers of this uprising, which is supposedly being told that it is just against the social media app bans, but it is about so much more. It is about the anger against corruption. It is about the economic drain that Nepal has been seeing. So let us start with understanding that what exactly is the problem that is going on, that the whole of the youth of this country assembled in the name of social media ban. Another food for thought, do you really think कि यहाँ पे social media के ban होते ही ऐसा क्या reason होगा कि सारी की सारी youth जो है वो इकट्ठा हो गई एक uprising के लिए? तो यहाँ में हमें इसे थोड़ा सा broader context में देखना होगा. We have to look at this in a broader context where the social media cannot be just understood as a means of entertainment. It needs to be seen that it is a platform for voice as well. It is a platform where the dissent that exists in public can be expressed. So when we are talking about ban on social media, we are not just talking about ban on entertainment, we are talking about ban on expression as well. So this whole ban was just the trigger point. However, there has been multiple reasons because the economy has shown GDP growth, but the inclusive development has not been there. The growth has been starkly unequal and there have been a clear division where we see elites on one side and ordinary youth on the other side. We will be going into the details of this, but in this very context, you have to also look on the other side, where if you remember that the Roman poet Juvenal, he went ahead and clearly said that if you give them bread and circuses, they will never revolt. However, when poet said this, his idea was that you give people the bare minimum food, so they do not have the energy to fight. They are only involved in looking for food the next day. And second, keep them involved, be it circuses, be it entertainment, and they will never have the energy. So many of people around us, they are looking at this protest from the lens, as soon as the circus was taken away, the means of entertainment was taken away, these people started revolting. But this goes much more deeper as soon as you understand social media, that how it is a big tool at the disposal of public to actually voice their expression, to actually voice what they feel like. So let us start with understanding the reasons that have triggered this whole fiasco in Nepal. So the first thing that you need to understand, Nepal is the classic tale of not two cities but two economies. In this two economies, you will find first elite economy, जहाँ पर आपको देखने को मिलेगा यहाँ पे rich, affluent लोग होंगे, वो एक बड़ी जिंदगी जी रहे हैं, जिनका इन्फ्लुएंस भी है. However, इससे starkly different, absolutely in a different zone, is the youth economy, which is poor, which lacks resources. There are no employment opportunities for them. These people can afford foreign education and they use it. They have limited means of education and vocational training as well. So in this very country, you get to see two starkly very different economies which are existing very much there. Where youth economy, you will also find that most of its economy is informal, where this country as of now has 40% of population as youth. that means the 80% informal sector that we are talking, वहां पे भी मेजर कंट्रीब्यूशन किसका होगा, यूथ का है. तो यहाँ पे जो प्रॉब्लम इकोनॉमी की है वो यूथ को डेफिनेटली और डायरेक्टली इफेक्ट करेगी, एंड इफ इट इज नॉट एड्रेस्ड then it would lead to something like this that just has happened. Now when we are talking about the discontent, so the discontent that we are talking about, इसका final nail जो है वो definitely social media ban था. Youth में जो हमें discontent देखने को मिल रहा है उसकी वजह से पॉलिटिकल स्टेबिलिटी जो है उसको बहुत ज़्यादा खतरा है, और साथ ही साथ इकोनॉमिक सस्टेनेबिलिटी जो है वो भी एक क्वेश्चनेबल पोजीशन में है. सो हेयर वी गेट टू सी दैट यूथ बीइंग एन वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कंपोनेंट of Nepal's very own informal, mostly informal economy, here the discontentment which is present, the frustration which is present with youth is not going to harm just the political structure but also the economic stability. And this harm has already begun, where more than 19 lives have been taken. The Prime Minister has said it was the ambiguity about the social media ban that has led to the loss of these lives. But the question is larger here. What are the reasons? Which are the people who are involved? And what are the stakes for India as well? However, the ban has been withdrawn as of now, but it still again asks for the question that what are the reasons that led to it. So first we have understood the overview. Now let us dive into the reasons directly. So the first reason, when we are talking about Nepal's economy, Nepal was going through a harsh economic period, and that was specifically troubling maximum of Nepal's youth. So when we are talking about Nepal's youth, which forms the 40% of the population as of now, the unemployment rate amongst the youth was more than 20%. We also got to see that there were limited formal opportunities that were available for youth because the 80% of economy is informal itself. Now, if the majoritarian economy is informal, then the positions of formal opportunities will be automatically limited. And 38%, more than 38% of GDP is coming only from informal activities. Now, when we talk about all of these reasons, you have to understand what impact they are creating. So, if we are talking about informal jobs, that means there is no social security, there are no proper wages that are being given. When we are talking about the youth unemployment, it clearly highlights that the university graduates or the pass out students are not finding the jobs appropriate for the skill, or they do not have the skills which are appropriate for the jobs that are present there. Now, the whole economy being especially in the informal sector, it also has a gendered impact, where we find majority of youth women which are concentrated in informal activities. That means the possibility of exploitation is higher, and if they are not getting their problems solved in the domestic economy, they will move out of the country where they can get appropriate jobs only if they have the resources. So, this whole situation where a person in the prime of their years cannot find an opportunity and is segregated because of the situation of his country, and the polity is not helping it, then the frustration is obvious. Now, if we look at another dimension that is present in front of us, when we are talking about Nepal, it is one of the remittance based economies. When we talk about its GDP, 26% of its GDP comes directly from the remittances itself, and this directly highlights the loss of opportunities that the youth sees in their own country and they have to fly out. That means it is a direct case of forced migration that youth are experiencing. So, this is only possible for the youth which has the skill or the money to move out. Rest of them are forced to be here only. But another problem that comes with being a remittance based economy is the fact that you are prone to global supply shocks. If this remittance is taken away, your GDP would be harmed. And when you are talking about number as big as $11 billion, then it can definitely hurt Nepal. When we talk about this particular economic layer, it does have its advantages where the country is getting the resources, but it comes with a cost where the youth is being forced out and it leads to frustration. It has its social cost also. It has the erosion of national self-reliance that comes with it, and that is another dimension that we need to consider. And then we have another economic layer dimension, the fact, the corruption and the elite privileges that existed in the economy. I started this conversation that Nepal is not just the tale of two cities, it is the tale of two economies. One, we have elite economy, one, we have youth economy. So when we talk about the elite economy, we get to understand that what it is that is fueling the anger in the youth economy, and it is corruption. So basically the Nepo kids, which is a word that goes on in India and Bollywood, it is not limited to there. In Nepal, we find that these influential kids have opulent lifestyles, and the corruption has led to erosion of public trust. How do we know about corruption in Nepal? The Corruption Perceptions Index, Nepal has been given 34 out of 100. The score that Nepal has is 34 out of 100. We have seen that Nepal has been giving immunities to the politicians, and the elite are self-serving, focused on themselves, which definitely dictates the future that elite economy is not going to look out for the youth economy. They are going to fund their own selves. Now, when their own country is segregating them, forcing them out of there, and in the end, the only place they have for expression, that is social media, that is also taken away in the name of rules which are not being followed by the companies. That is where youth actually wanted to get together and tell that this is our platform and it cannot be taken away. So that is why the uprising, the final trigger event came as the social media ban itself. यहाँ पे गवर्नमेंट का तो क्लियर कहना था कि ये जो बैन है वो सिर्फ मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन हटाने के लिए है और डिजिटल प्लेटफॉर्म्स को रेगुलेट करने के लिए है, बट यूथ का ऐसा मानना था कि उनका फ्रीडम ऑफ एक्सप्रेशन जो है उसको दबाया जा रहा है, उसको खत्म करने की कोशिश की जा रही है. दिस इज वेयर यूथ डिड नॉट have any trust on the government claim because the rampant corruption that is present, the elite economy which is facilitated by the government, and the immunities that are granted to politicians had eroded the public trust, and public was not ready to believe it's the government. And this is where we get to see why social media became such an important thing for youth, because this is the focal point when we are talking about politics and any sort of political mobilization as well. This is an alternative which is present to traditional parties' youth wings. So whenever we are talking about even youth wings of the parties in India, this is the only tool. Social media is coming as an alternative to the youth wings because it provides the connectivity to the youth, and this is a tool where with one click you can expose not just corruption, all sorts of networking, digital businesses, everything. So this gives a lot of power in the hands of public itself, and in democracies, when the public feels that the power is being taken away, that is when we get to see such uprisings. And this youth uprising is to be seen in this very lens itself. Now let us move ahead and also understand that what is the symbolic loss that is happening, especially in context of Nepal. So this is not just about apps being banned. Youth have clearly understood that this is about their voice, identity and agency which is being curbed and taken away. And that is why we are seeing this big impact on protest, where from this just being a silent frustration, it became a visible street action where we have seen students fuming the streets, and it has a very clear meaning that the ban is not just one thing that led to this immense protest. There were multiple layers to it, which were all of a sudden exposed because of this protest. Now let us move and understand how it can directly impact, what implications it carries. First, how it will affect Nepal's democracy. Because of this protest and the upliftment of ban, you will find this, the youth is already alienated from the political parties. That means there is a clear risk that the democratic legitimacy will be weakened in coming times. Furthermore, social media crackdown has further increased the erosion of public distrust that already existed against the state institutions. Furthermore, when we are talking about long-term danger, this clearly highlights if we are taking away the tools of the youth, they will radicalize or disengage from politics itself, and this is a call for structural reforms, not just the upliftment of ban, but addressing the real problems that lie here. Now we will directly come to the important question that why are we so interested? Because this is in our neighborhood. It is going to directly impact us, and many other countries are also interested in what is going on. Because any regional instability that occurs, that means it is a scope for other parties to interfere. So Nepal's youth unrest directly impacts the regional stability, and we also might get to see more migration in India, which has always been a very fragile question in terms of internal security, in terms of handling the migrants, and especially when we are talking about the northeastern area. Then this regional stability is also another thing. India has a direct stake involved because it is the largest labor market and one of the biggest trading partners. Nepal stands as this. In this very context, India has a direct relationship, and any kind of turmoil, India is already involved. Furthermore, this sort of instability gives also us a window of opportunity where India can strengthen its ties with Nepal, which have been not so good in recent times, since resumption of trade happened between India and China through Lipo Lake Pass, which Nepal claims its own territory. Skill building, investment, cross-border job creation, etc. such scope opens. And remembering that political instability in Nepal, in our neighbor, leaves a scope for many countries to enter, be it US, be it Gulf countries, be it China, and India needs to be engaged with its own neighbors so as to avoid the backdoor entry of other partners in this situation. Now that was all from my side. Thank you so much.